Now, earlier today, UN Ambassador Susan Rice met with 3 Senate Republicans on Capitol Hill in an attempt to try and explain away why she went on all 5 Sunday shows just days after the Benghazi terror attack and tried to blame the violence on a YouTube video. But after today's closed-door meeting, all 3 senators said they are more disturbed than they were before. Watch this.
We are significantly troubled by many of the answers that we got and some that we didn't get.
Bottom line, I'm more disturbed now than I was before that the 16 September explanation about how 4 Americans died in Benghazi, Libya by Ambassador Rice, I think does not do justice to the reality at the time.
I'm more troubled today, knowing, having met with the acting director of the CIA and Ambassador Rice.
Joining me now with reaction, Fox News contributor Liz Cheney. Well, that's pretty disturbing, considering.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I think that these senators made a very good faith effort. Ambassador Rice asked for the meeting. But the notion that they came out of the session more disturbed than when they went in is really troubling. And this latest shift, this just happened in the last few hours, where apparently the acting director of the CIA told the senators that it was the FBI that changed the talking points, that removed the reference to al-Qaeda. And he had a reason for it in the meeting. He said that it was because they didn't want to hurt an ongoing criminal investigation. And now, later today, the CIA came out and said, well, he misspoke. So it's now, the 4th or 5th iteration of who changed the talking points, which isn't something that happens when you're actually telling the truth.
This is the problem I think Susan Rice has and the White House has, is if David Petraeus knew instantaneously and Charlene Lamb says that the State Department was watching this in real time and they were getting reports on the ground and calls for help to the CIA annex, and all of this was, and the Libyan president, all of these things happened within 24 hours. There is no justification at all to go blame a YouTube video. And if their explanation is, well, we didn't want to jump the gun, then they couldn't jump the gun on that excuse either. So that doesn't fly. So I'm not surprised by what they said after this meeting.
Well, it's clear they don't have an answer, because if they had an answer, then we would have heard it by now. What we've heard are so many changes to this story, and we haven't heard from the president, and we haven't heard from the Secretary of State. We had the White House spokesman today say, with great disdain, I think, for the American people, say that this is an obsession that we have wanting to know what happened. 4 Americans were left to die. And the President of the United States has not come out and said, here's what happened, here's why I made the decisions I made. And where in the world is Secretary Clinton? I mean, it seems to me that these senators, not only should they not confirm Ambassador Rice under any circumstances, but I think they ought to say, we won't confirm anyone until Secretary Clinton gets up here under oath and gives a full and complete testimony about what she knew and when she knew it and what she did.
Let me move on to Egypt and the consolidation now of power, a power grab, and basically the emergence of tyranny, if you ask me, as it relates to President Morsi. What's more disturbing, I think, in many ways, that Hamas got credibility they didn't deserve as a result of all of this, and I believe Morsi was elevated by the White House and by Secretary Clinton. And I think the end result is the only reason there's a ceasefire is because their missiles weren't effective, because the Israelis were able to prevent them. And I am afraid they'll go back to their drawing board and get bigger missiles that are more effective. What do you think?
Yeah. No, you're right. I think that if you look at the wording of the ceasefire, it's pretty ridiculous. You've got now the Muslim Brotherhood president in Egypt as the arbiter of any disagreements between the Israelis and Hamas. Don't forget, the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas are the same organization. And secondly, you have an administration. We've got now at least 250,000 people in the streets of Cairo saying we do not support this power grab. You've got the Muslim Brotherhood president who clearly does not believe in or support anything that has to do with American interests. And the White House has essentially been silent on it. It really reminds me of their silence back in June of 2009 when the Iranian people were in the streets and they didn't want to offend the mullahs.
You want to know why I think it's worse?
Yeah.
We're giving them money.
Well, absolutely, and we shouldn't be. I think that we need to, the military assistance is important. I think that the Egyptian military may well be sort of the last vestige of any kind of secular rule there. Our economic assistance, in my view, ought to be put on hold, and certainly the loan forgiveness ought to be canceled. But there's no reason that we can justify continuing to support a government that's working at odds against so actively American interests.
All right. Liz Cheney, always good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean. You too.